Hello, dear friends. We continue our series about the illegal seizure of power in the Russian Federation by a small handful of poorly educated citizens who fancy themselves saviors of the fatherland, collectors of Russian lands, the revival of the Russian world. Only to achieve these goals, this oligarchic elite, which has rapidly soared into the upper echelons of power, with insane stubbornness, uses outdated methods of organizing state structures based on brute force that have no prospects in modern civilizational development. They believe that a country armed to the teeth with a poor, embittered and disenfranchised population is capable of instilling fear in its neighbors. As they say, being afraid means being respected. They will never be able to understand modern state system based on social justice, decent wages, pensions, benefits, equality, democracy, strict observance of the constitution and laws. These parasites have imposed in our country and our people a false imperial national patriotism, which is nothing but the real Russian fascism.
Slava России!
And having themselves believed in the illusion of being chosen and greatness created by them, they are pulling our country into the abyss of poverty and backwardness with maddened persistence. Mafia. Film 16. In this film, I will present you the results of my 3-year work on the analysis of voting in the presidential elections of the Russian Federation on the 18th of March 2018. All this structural analysis covers 14 regions included in the Volga Federal District. These are 22,268 packs, as well as 1,926 packs of the Republic of Dagestan, 507 packs of the Chechen Republic and 137 packs of the Republic of Ingushetia. Taking into account the fact that the Putin regime had introduced such requirement that from all subsequent federal election companies after 2016, no citizen of the Russian Federation, including a participant of electoral process, can receive video recordings from polling stations for analysis and detection of falsifications. The analysis of the mass falsification process was carried out according to open sources, namely according to the official results of voting and the hourly turnout of voters at the polling stations. According to the electoral legislation, each pack at 10, 12, 15 and 18 o'clock transmits to the Higher Election Commission data on voter turnout at the polling station. And all this information is stored in open access on the internet and on the SEC website in the gas election system. The initial analysis of mass fraud in the presidential elections of the Russian Federation on the 18th of March 2018, based on this open data, was conducted by Sergei Shpilkin. According to him, the anomaly in the number attributed to Putin's result was 10,400,000 votes. According to my investigation, this figure is 2 times more. The result of Mr. Putin is credited not with 13%, but about 28% of the votes. That is, Mr. Putin received not 76%, but 48% of the votes. According to the electoral legislation, if none of the candidates has won more than 50% of the votes, the second round of the presidential election is scheduled, which of course wasn't done. And now we will look at all the ways of attribution by members of the PAC to the result of citizen Putin. The first method of serious correspondence of illegal BPs occurs in the polling station after 18 o'clock. I showed it in the 9th episode of our film. This is when the members of the PAC already know that none of the voters will come to the polling station anymore, and the members of the PACs themselves begin to throw the BPs into the ballot boxes for the voters who didn't come, thereby significantly increasing the turnout and the percent of votes cast for the right candidate. I have been organizing elections since 2007, and for 15 years I have formed serious statistical data from dozens of electoral companies of federal and municipal level. Among them, for 5 years I have completely processed an array of videos from 1,400 polling stations that the Central Election Commission of the Russian Federation provided me. It concludes 2,800 videos. A detailed analysis of these videos showed that regardless of the location of the pack, the number of voters who came to vote at the polling station in the first half of the day, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., significantly exceeds the number of voters who voted in the last 2 hours from 18 to 20 o'clock. If you imagine it graphically, then on all polling stations without exception, the curve describing the voters' turnout takes the same form. Where on the x-axis we have marked the voting time from 8 a.m. to 20 p.m., on the y-axis is the number of voters who came to vote. The graph shows that the number of voters who voted in the first half of the day is several times, I repeat, several times higher than the number of those who voted in the evening. Having studied the turnout tables from 22,200 polling stations, I found the 7,000 PS's massive falsifications in the form of the monstrous turnout at these polling stations in the last 2 hours of voting from 18 to 20 o'clock. Moreover, it can be seen from the tables that in most of the PS's the turnout of voters in the last 2 hours exceeds the turnout in the morning hours by 2, 3 or even 5 times. And that's how this crazy turnout is done. The first method of mass registration of voters who didn't come to vote. This is when the member of the pack in the last hour of voting, perfectly knowing well that during this period no more than 2% of voters come to the polling stations, they themselves throw hundreds or even 1,000 sets of ballot papers into the ballot boxes for voters who didn't come to vote. In total, only 7 voters voted at the 1,334 Kinel-Cherkassky municipal district, but PAC members during the reporting turnout period from 18 to 20 o'clock have thrown 164 sets of ballot papers into the ballot box, raising the voter turnout by 24%. In most cases, such falsifications occur according to the same scheme. Remember, in episode 13 in Privolsky Municipal District, PAC 2405, an hour before the end of the voting, the chairman of the PAC carefully invites the observer to go have a cup of tea. As soon as the observer leaves, Putin United Russia obscurantism begins. As a result, members of the PAC 2405 of the Privolsky Municipal District increased the voter turnout by 24% over the last hour of voting. Similarly, at the PAC 1334 of Kinel-Cherkassky Municipal District, previously considered by us, observers are offered to drink tea, leave the PAC premises for 5 minutes. And then the stuffing of illegal ballot papers begins. Run, come on, come on. And what will we do? A criminal case. Let's determine how long the members of the PAC threw 164 sets of ballot papers into the urn. It turned out 3 minutes. And now remember the 15th episode, Khvorostiansky Municipal District, PAC 4118, where 15 minutes before the end of voting, 3 members of the PAC and an observer pour stacks of illegal ballot papers into the ballot box. The first, 1 minute 34 seconds, the second, 3 minutes 40 seconds, the third, 4.5 minutes. Total throw in time is 10 minutes. Compare Kinel-Cherkassky District, a 3-minute throw in, 164 sets. Khvorostianka, a 10-minute throw in, 252 sets of ballot papers. Everything matches perfectly. As a result, the voter turnout at PAC 4118 was 100%, and the increase in turnout over the last 15 minutes of voting was 51%. To show the final mass stuffing of illegal ballot papers on a huge mass of PSs is just physically impossible. this happens in the polling stations of all 37 municipalities. But according to one episode of this terror criminality on PS, I am simply obliged to show that the citizens of our country have realized the scale of the rape of the constitution and electoral legislation of the Russian Federation when the Putin regime conducts any of the companies of any referendum of the annexation of Crimea and other territories. In previous episodes, you have seen the mass casting of BPs into the ballot boxes during the last 2 hours of voting at the PECs of Volsky, Krasnoarmeyski, Bolsho-Chernigovsky, Pestrovsky, Privolzhsky, Khvorostyansky municipal districts of Samara region and Zheleznodorozhny, Kuybышevsky, Leninsky districts of Samara. In episode 15, I showed you how 1 hour before the end of voting in the Shantalinsky municipal district, the members of the PEC turn off the surveyors' cameras and the chairman of the commission throws stacks of illegal ballot papers into the ballot box, thereby increasing the turnout in the period we are considering, from 18 to 20 hours. Polling stations of Borsky municipal district. An observer from the public chamber votes 2 times. But you and me are only interested in voting in the last 2 hours. And look, for the second time, 10 BPs from each PEC are counted out to her. She throws into the urn at 1936 40 ballot papers. And so, all members of the PEC and all public observers throw 10 ballot papers into the ballot box in the last 2 hours of voting. A female member of the PEC votes 2 times. First time at 1852, second time at 1939. For the first time, she signs 12 times in the issue log for 3 voters. For the second time, 10 BPs from each PEC are counted to her, so 40 BPs. In total, in the reality from 18 to 20 hours, there were no voters at these polling stations. But in the turnout table it is listed that from 18 to 20, 40% of voters voted here, exactly as many as voted for the previous 10 hours from 8 AM to 6 PM at this polling station. The outlier of the curve describing the voter turnout over the last 2 hours is 3 times higher than the previous 10 hours of voting. I want you to remember these numbers. The real turnout at the PEC of the most remote areas is not 81% of voters, but 41%. And the postscript to the result of the desired candidate is 40%. If we subtract from Putin's result obtained by him on this polling station 40% of the attributions of non-existent voters, you'll get the second round of presidential elections. Polling stations of the Yelchovsky municipal district. All members of the PEC and all public observers after 18 o'clock throw dozens of illegal ballot papers into the urn. As a result, in the turnout table and on the graph, we observe a degradation surge in voter turnout in the last 2 hours of voting. Kinelsky municipal district. All members of the PEC and all public observers and 18 more falsifiers in the last hour of voting, well, they just went crazy. Totally only 9 voters voted at the polling station from 19 to 20 o'clock, and during this hour the falsifiers threw 152 sets of illegal ballot papers into the ballot boxes, completely perverting the voter turnout at the end of the vote. Isaklinsky municipal district. The chairman of the PEC votes 6 times. And all members of the PEC and public observers vote several times, throwing dozens of illegal ballot papers into the ballot box, thereby significantly increasing the turnout in the last hour of voting. Stavropol municipal district. All the same. All members of the PEC and public observers significantly raise voter turnout by throwing in piles of illegal ballot papers in the last hours of voting. On the PSs of the Pokhvesnevsky municipal district, terrible criminal lawlessness has been taking place. For a normal person to call this abomination elections, I can't make myself say it. All members of the PEC, all public observers and 37 more falsifiers pour hundreds of illegal ballot papers into the ballot boxes. And the main stuffing of illegal ballot papers occurs in the last hour of voting. In Bezhenchuk municipal district, the same mess Putin feel of degradation and madness. The chairman of the PEC opens the polling station. And so that everything in our commission is calm and good today. Time 18:33, an hour and a half before the end of voting. The chairman of the PEC opens the safe. She takes out a stack of illegal ballot papers and takes them to the zone for secret voting. After 6 minutes, it comes to pick up the illegal ballot papers and, hiding behind a column, throws them into the urn. A member of the PEC blocks the view of the surveillance camera. First time, 11 throw-ins, without counting when the members of the PEC blocked the view of the surveillance cameras. Second time, the time is 1916, everything's the same. Opens the safe, gets illegal ballot papers. Look at the stack. Hiding behind a column, she begins to throw. 8 throw-ins. Third time. Time is 1932. All according to the gnarled scheme. Safe. Look at the thickness of the stack. About 100 ballot papers. The secretary of the commission takes the BPs to the zone for secret voting. In 7 minutes, the chairman of the PEC goes to throw in these illegal ballot papers. And again, hiding behind a column, makes a throw-in. 11 throw-ins. The fourth time, at 1955, she took a stack of illegal ballot papers from a female member of the PEC. Hiding behind a column, she throws them into the urn. A member of the PEC blocks the view of the surveillance cameras. The fifth time, 1956, she takes out from behind the screen, hiding a stack of illegal ballot papers in his bosom. And hiding behind a column, she passes ballots for stuffing into the ballot box to another member of the PEC. In total, only one PEC chairman in the last 2 hours of voting threw at least 180 sets of illegal ballot papers into the ballot box. And so that everything in our commission today is calm and good. And altogether, members of the PEC and public observers in the last 2 hours of voting threw at least 350 sets of illegal ballot papers into the ballot boxes. Everything's the same in Syzran municipal district. A woman, a member of the PEC, at the polling station in the last 2 hours of voting voted 10 times. At 18:40, the members of the PEC turn off the surveillance cameras. Then, the chairman of the PEC expels from the PS the policemen and public observers. Let's go drink tea. Go. And commands to all members of the PEC to start mass stuffing of illegal ballot papers into the ballot boxes. The chairman of the PEC herself, only in the last 20 minutes of voting, approaches and throws illegal ballot papers into the ballot boxes 5 times. An elderly woman, a member of the PEC, for the last 30 minutes throws illegal ballot papers into the bins 6 times. And so do all the members of the PEC and public observers. In total, from the turnout table published on the Central Election Commission website, we can see a giant third of those who voted at this polling station in the last 2 hours of voting. In total, from 18 to 20 o'clock, 11 voters voted at this polling station, and the members of the PEC, during the same time, threw 200 sets of illegal ballot papers into the ballot boxes. Krasnoyarsk Municipal District. Time 1942. Everything is as in Syzran Municipal District. The chairman expels from the polling station the policemen and public observers. The secretary of the commission brings in a whole box of illegal ballot papers. And together they begin to throw in a large number of illegal ballot papers. To make it clear to our viewers, in such a box, 500 BPs is a standard. Well done. The turnout curve in the last 2 hours of voting jumped sharply up. Altogether, the members of the PAC increased the turnout at this polling station to 32%. If we subtract from this Putin's result he received on this polling station 32% of the attributions of the voters who didn't come to vote, you'll get the second round of the presidential election. People come to the sites. We can see it by the turnout. Absolutely unprecedented. But not all PAC chairmen carry out mass stuffing of illegal ballot papers into the ballot boxes in the last hour of voting. Those chairmen who have a lot of experience in election campaigns are aware of the hourly turnout of voters on their polling stations. They have perfectly studied that the mainstream of voters comes to PSs up to 2 p.m. And after 48 hours and until the end of voting, there is a sharp decrease in voter turnout. Therefore, experienced PAC chairmen make this mass stuffing into the ballot boxes, not in the last hour of voting, but in the time interval from 16 to 18 o'clock, when at the polling stations there are practically no voters. Klavlinsky Municipal District. At the indicated time from 16 to 18 o'clock, when no one voted at this polling station, the chairman of the PAC voted 10 times. At the same time, all members of the PAC and all public observers approach the ballot box more than once and throw illegal ballot papers there. Are you on our side, I hope? He can't see anything, haha. Kinel-Cherkassky Municipal District, 1647. The chairman of the PAC asks a policeman standing at the entrance to the polling station. Sergei, are you guarding? Everything is okay? Putting the policeman on the lookout, as she herself later says, all members of the PAC begin preparations for the mass stuffing of illegal ballot papers. Sitting and standing members of the PAC begin to tick the boxes for the right candidate in clean BPs. And the chairman of the PAC begins to throw stacks of illegal ballot papers into the urn. Natasha, are we doing it in batches? Yes, all by 20. All by 20. In 2 minutes, an observer from the public chamber joins the chairman. Come on, can I help you? In the intervals between the stuffing, the members of the PAC consider the illegal ballot papers thrown into the urn. Let's read it now, how much we have done. 223. Few. Still doing? Let's have some more. Don't you take off your tea, Sergei? I don't have any grandchildren yet. They give more for a lookout. Don't be afraid, Tanyusha. Throw in the BPs. No one will put you and this policeman Sergei standing on the lookout in jail. Election day for Putin's government, over these 20 years, has become a holiday for the mass rape of the constitution and election legislation of the Russian Federation. Disgusting attitude to the flag and anthem of our country. Let me breathe. Run until your breath runs out. As a result of Putin-Pamphilov obscurantism, the chairman of the PAC approaches the ballot box 26 times and threw in packs of illegal ballot papers. And the observer from the public chamber 10 times. Total, how much did we get? So 229 plus 18? Great. Really? No, but we did fine. More, it will already be abnormal. Well, we don't do it anymore, Svetlana. Exactly an hour later, a call from the administration comes to the PAC chairman's phone to find out if she has done the voter turnout indicated to all the PAC's chairmen. Everything is awesome. What is 72? They told you the correct number. It can be seen from the table. posted on the SEC website that for all the time of the polling station 1331 voted 440 persons. From a video recording from the polling station, we found out that the members of the PAC threw 312 sets of illegal ballot papers into the urn. Throw 3 more and that's it. I also took into account the corrective stuffing of illegal ballot papers after the closure of the PSs at 20 hours 8 minutes. In total, the voter turnout schedule here with the fair vote has the correct form. It clearly shows that the number of voters who came to vote in the first hours is several times more than the number of those who came to the polling stations in the afternoon. But the schedule of the arrival of voters to the PSs on the basis of the criminal Putin-Pamphilov system has an ugly look. It is completely the opposite of fair voting. It shows that the number of voters who came to the polling station in the evening significantly exceeds the number of voters who voted in the morning. And such a vote in the presidential elections of the Russian Federation in 2018 takes place on 32% of the polling stations of the Volga Federal District. How can you explain such an unusually high turnout? How is it possible such a way? If the electoral legislation allowed washed, combed and dressed up animals to participate in the election process, the Putin-Pamphilov system would allow to elect any animal, any degenerate to the post of President of the Russian Federation. And all the same applies to the elections of governors, mayors and generally elections of any level. In such an electoral system, not only a person but also any sheep, any pig can occupy any state position in Putin's Russia. Here are the results of Sergei Shpilkin's analysis of the elections of the governor of Samara region. Look at the level of the falsification surge. And as my investigation shows, it's a guaranteed minimum. In fact, there are much more falsifications. And it happens in the PSs of all regions. Here in the decision of the Bessonovsky District Court of the Penza region of June 16, 2021. The chairman of the PAC, number 374 Svirchkova, at the elections of the governor of the Penza region and the election of the deputies of the State Duma in the period from 1911 until 1923, so in the last hour of voting, asked citizens A and Ch to close the review of CCTV cameras and personally placed it in the stationary voting box 662 BPs, obviously knowing that only 204 voters took part in the elections. The difference from those who actually voted and assigned in the last hour of voting is the same, 3.5 times. I have observed this rapid trend of Putinism, where is the degradation of public administration for the sake of the personal whim of the ruler. The second method of mass registration of illegal BPs, which also increases voter turnout at the polling stations, has been considered in our 13th film, when in the last 2 hours of voting, when illegal ballot papers are thrown into the stack of the right candidates, or when counting votes, or at the time of transporting bags of ballot papers from the rooms of the PAC to the TAC. Members of the PAC pour out the BPs from the transfer boxes, then pour out the BPs from the stationary urns. Spread out by candidates. At 21:28, the head of the settlement and the secretary of the commission, a woman in a blue dress for the first time, throw illegal ballot papers. At 22:24, the head of the settlement enters a stack of illegal ballot papers for the second time. At 22:38, the third visit of the head of the settlement. At 22:38, the secretary of the commission brings in a whole box of illegal ballot papers. All these brought illegal ballot papers after the end of the voting, which are on the majority of polling stations from 30 to 60% of voters who didn't come to vote, are recorded in the turnout tables as those who voted in the last 2 hours of voting. The most brazen chairman of the PACs for stuffing illegal ballot papers take the urns for counting BPs into a room without video cameras. A postscript in the TAC. At the polling station number 4607, according to the protocols, that's the head of the UR fraction in the Samara Regional Parliament, Zhivaykin, who won the election. Listen to what the members of the PAC say about the stack of the BPs given for this candidate after the final layout for candidates. That's for Zhivaykin, not much. Little something. It means that Zhivaykin lost the election. In total, for the last 2 hours of voting from 18 to 20 o'clock, only 3 voters voted as the PS. And the members of the PAC drew 83 voters in the turntable at this time, so 80 illegal ballot papers were thrown in on the way to the TEC. That's for Zhivaykin, little something. And these 80 falsified BPs were enough for Zhivaykin to win. Bizenchuk Municipal District, PAC number 0228. For the last 2 hours of voting from 18 to 20 o'clock, only 2 voters voted here. PAC members take an empty box 30 minutes before the end of voting and put the BPs there. They take them out of the polling station. We won't see this box and these BPs anymore. But from the voter turntable published on the SEC website, we learn that in the last 2 hours of voting at this polling station, 112 voters voted and not 2. And we get here, as well as on 7,000 polling stations of the Volga Federal District, a degraded schedule with 40% of voters who voted in the last 2 hours of voting. Illegal ballot papers were thrown in here by members of the PAC, either on the way to the TEC or in the TEC itself. So, what is the main sign we need to see in order to understand that the registration of illegal ballot papers will be made by members of the PAC on the day to the TEC or in the office of the head of the administration? Taking out bags of BPs to transport them to the TEC, members of the PAC can throw any bundles of illegal ballot papers there without risking getting caught on CCTV cameras. And most of the PAC chairmen do so. To do this, the PAC chairmen do not redeem the remaining unclaimed net ballot papers. Let me remind you, at the end of the voting at 20 o'clock, when the polling station is being closed and no one voter outside the polling station will no longer be able to vote, the members of the PAC, first of all, have to recalculate and redeem by cutting off the lower left corner all unclaimed clean BPs located on the polling station. But in most of the polling stations, however, this procedure set for by the electoral legislation is not carried out. The time is 20 o'clock. The polling station is closed for counting votes. Immediately after the closing of the polling stations at 20 o'clock, the chairmen of the PACs do not redeem unused clean BPs, but pour out portable and stationary urns and begin counting BPs. After the calculation is made, it becomes clear how many clean unused BPs need to be thrown to the right candidate, so that everything would be, as they themselves say, tip-top. This basic, safest type of fraud occurs in most of the PSs of all 37 municipalities of the Samara region. Bolshek-Glushitsky Municipal District, without redeeming of the remaining clean BPs, at 20:03 pour out the transfer and stationary urns. Stavropol Municipal District, at 20:04 the last voter voted, and immediately in 5 seconds, without any redeeming of unused BPs, the stationary urn is poured out. Bolsha-Chernigovsky Municipal District, 20 hours, 1 minute. In this shortened version of the film, I cut out the same type of stories about falsifications from PSs of the remaining municipalities of Samara region. You can get acquainted with the full version of the 16th series on my YouTube channel on the internet. where in the PSs of all 37 municipal districts, after their closure at 20 o'clock, the remaining net unused BPs are not redeemed, and the calculation of BPs for candidates begins immediately. And after it, turns out that the right candidate didn't get the necessary number of votes to win in the first round. A mass transfer of these outstanding BPs to the stack of BPs of the right candidate begins. This is the easiest way of falsifications, which leads to a significant increase in turnout and simply to an unrealistically huge increase in the result of the desired candidate, occurs by 53% of the PSs of the Samara region. We will consider this type of falsification in more detail in the next series, using the example of the PSs of the Kirovsky district of the city of Samara. You will see that according to the protocol, 30,900 voters allegedly voted for the political party United Russia, but in fact the postscript with the help of outstanding clean BPs here is 16,000 votes, so 52%. We showed you in the 8th episode of our film in what place the bagging of these outstanding clean BPs takes place, on the example of TIC Bogatovsky district. The chairman of all PACs have brought unsealed bags with BPs to the TIC of Bogatovsky district on the 18th of March 2018. During the transportation, the PAC members throw the outstanding BPs into these open bags. And only then the bags are sealed in TEC. So how to determine if there was a stuffing on the PSs of clean outstanding BPs or there were no such falsifications? If you can't get video materials from the polling stations? It's very simple. According to the turnout table, which is published on the SEC website in the gas election system. The fact is that the chairman of the PAC make out all these 700, 800, 900 abandoned pure illegal ballot papers as if such a number of voters voted at the polling station in the last 2 hours of voting from 18 to 8 o'clock. To 20 o'clock. And on such polling stations we get, well, just a degraded schedule of voter turnout under the closure of the polling stations. I repeat, for 3 years of work on compiling tables and graphs of voter turnout for 22,000 public stations on the election of the President of the Russian Federation on the 18th of March 2018, on 7,000 polling stations there are insane surges in voter turnout in the last 2 hours of voting. And when I showed you in the 15th episode the results on my investigation about the simply monstrous falsifications in the elections organized by the existing government in Samara region, from which the hair stands on end, it turned out that these were just flowers. Berries are the degradation of electoral system in the Saratov region, the Republic of Bashkortostan, Perm-Krai, the Republic of Tatarstan. In these 4 regions, the most massive falsifications of voting results have taken place by huge attributions of voters who didn't take part in the vote on the 18th of March 2018. If we subtract from the result of citizen Putin shown on the polling stations of the Volga Federal District, the mass postings found on 7,000 polling stations in the last 2 hours of voting, it turns out that the second round of presidential elections is necessary. The same conclusion was reached by international observers who conducted studies of video recordings from polling stations of the Central Federal District on the 18th of March 2018. Result: out of almost 100,000 verified votes, 44% turned out to be dead souls. Let's summarize the preliminary results. There are different opinions about the legality of Putin's repeated elections. Not in any election, I emphasize, Vova Putin didn't win the first round. None of them. Think about it, people. Where Putin and his United Russia have brought us. The presidential elections of the Russian Federation are ahead. Where is the guarantee that some degenerate sitting in the Kremlin will not appoint himself to this position, and in the elections a criminal Putin-Bonfilov electoral system will draw him a crazy result of 76%. Mafia. Postscriptum. And the main thing is that the citizens of our country themselves would be confident that the elections are held openly, transparently, and their results deserve respect.
И результаты их заслуживают уважения.
Your question to the president. I would ask Putin a question. How long can you lie to people? When will all these lies stop? I am 76 years old. I lived under Stalin, Brezhnev and Gorbachev. Well, I haven't heard such lies yet. To be continued.